Alright, hello YouTube land. Brent and Son coming at you today from Lexington, Kentucky. I got a special guest today. His name is Jacob from Texas. And he's got a very interesting Dogman story that you all just have got to hear this. If you've liked the other Dogman stories, you're going to be really liking this story. So, without further ado, I welcome Jacob to the show. Hello, Jacob.
Hey, how's it going, Brenton?
Pretty good, buddy. I'm so glad, man, that you contacted me on that Kirk Stokes video, and because I've never heard any story quite like yours out of listening to all of Vic Condiff's shows. He's got like 49 shows now that he has posted, and I've not heard anything like this. I even told him about you. And so he might want to have you come on his show if you want to, but he's super cool, man, and you'd probably like it. If you would, Jacob, give us a brief bio on like who you are and where you live and that kind of thing, if you would.
Yeah, no problem, Brenton. Well, like you know, my name is Jacob, and currently I'm living in Dallas, but back when I had the encounter, I lived in Waco, Texas. I say Waco, Texas loosely, but basically I lived in what they call China Springs, about 30 minutes north of Waco, outside the city limits, and a little spot called Castile Village Road, and it's basically out there in the woods. You're in the sticks, and there's little neighborhoods or communities out there.
All right.
And
you said now, before we get to your story, I was wanting to you mentioned that when you had this encounter that you really had no one that you could tell it to, and you hadn't ever even heard about the word Dogman. So you all called it a werewolf.
Oh yeah, I mean, Brenton, to be quite honest with you, we didn't know what it was that we saw or that we encountered, and the closest thing to what we had seen was on a horror movie. All right, I think what they were calling it werewolves, okay, and this thing resembled what they call a werewolf in those horror movies. You see pictures of it, you've seen videos of it. If you've seen the movie The Howling 2, I mean, this is pretty much what it resembled. And so for the longest time, I was telling people I saw a werewolf, okay? Because that's all I knew it to be. I didn't know anything else, and it wasn't until I got online and I started, just flicking through, trying to see what it was that I saw these years back, that I saw people calling it the Dogman, right? So I thought, okay, well, Dogman, werewolf, to me, it seemed to be all the same because it looks to be the same.
Right. Yeah. Even when it comes to the Bigfoot, people before the footprints were kind of made news and the Patterson-Gimlin film had come out and someone had casted one of those footprints, and it was a big old foot, and they started calling it Bigfoot. There's sometimes you'll see shows on TV and they'll say, well, after that, and people started saying they had encounters with Bigfoot, so it must be a mass hallucination, something like that. But people had encounters with it. They just called it things like booger, or they called it Chicken Man down in Oklahoma, north of you. And they also they called it Lou Garou in New Orleans and things like that. So you just didn't have a name for it other than werewolf, because that's all that people would call something like that.
Yeah, and for the longest time, Brenton, everybody looked at me like I was crazy. They told me, Jacob, we didn't think you were one of those people that make up stories. Or why are you telling us these lies? I'm like, my God, it's not a lie. I'm trying to, the only reason I even told anybody, the only reason I'm even speaking about it today, Brenton, is because Africa has lions. Okay. Down in the what are they? Australia. That's what they call that that tiger, Australian tiger. And here in the Americas, we have what I thought was the werewolf, and what everyone nowadays is calling the Dogman. And this is living. It's an actual living creature. Okay, I seen it with my own eyes, and I wasn't alone. There was 3 other individuals with me when we saw it.
Yeah,
okay?
we'll get to that.
That were there with me at the same time. We seen it really good. I mean, we studied this thing until we got tired of seeing it and drove off.
Right.
So,
well, we'll get to that in a minute. I would like for you to start by telling us a little bit about the friend that you had who believed your story and why he believed you.
Well, yeah, like I was telling you, so, you know, I have close friends, family members, like somehow we'll get into the conversation, you know, they'll be talking about Bigfoot or animals in the woods, and, you know, I'll tell them my encounter, right? I'll be like, hey, look, this is what happened to me. And some of them will believe me, some of them won't. I've had some friends tell me that they just thought I was crazy and they thought I was making up stories. And then I had this one individual that did believe me. And I said, well, hold on. Wait a second now. You know, that was a change. Someone actually taking me serious. I said, how comes that you believe me and nobody else does? Well, I mean, because he told me, I believe you, Jacob. I believe you. I said, okay. Well, why do you believe me, right? And he told me, Jacob, because I had a similar encounter. I said, well, tell me about it, my God. He says he was out hunting by himself in Corsicana, and some land a friend of his owns. They gave him permission to hunt in. And he said he came across a creek, and there was 3 of these things on all 4s drinking from a creek. And he seen them, and then he went and he was hunting with an AR now, okay? So he had an AR, he's got 30 rounds in it, he's pretty confident. And he said that he had a laser, he hit the laser, put it on his head, and as he was walking around, the laser happened to hit the eye of one of them. He said that the skin on his teeth went back, and he could hear it growling, that it went, ah. He said, oh, hell no. And he lit into it. He says he lit into the eye of it. He says, Jacob, I spent all 30 rounds because there was 3 of them. They were big. They were sitting about 4 to 5 foot tall on all 4s. And it was just me. So he says, I lit into the eye of that one thing. And he says, it fell. It stumbled around. It started to yell and scream. And I said, well, hold on. You know, what do you mean it yelled and screamed? And he said, man, I don't know what to tell you. It yelled and screamed. I said, what? I mean, it yelled and screamed. I mean, what do you mean yell and scream? He goes, man, it yelled and screamed. I don't know. When someone yells and screams, that's what it sounded like. I said, okay, well, that was weird. And he says, so the other ones took off. He says, I seen it stumble around, and I went to go see what it was that I killed, right? He says, I made my way over there, crossed the creek, and there was a lot of blood. He says, Jacob, there was a lot of blood, but there was no animal. There was no animal. He goes, that thing got up and ran off. He says, it ran off, man. I said, well, what did you do then? He said, I got the hell out of there. He says, nothing should have survived 30 rounds into the head. You know? He says, I'm not saying all 30 rounds hit it in the head. He says, I'm just saying, you know, at least 5 or 6 of them hit it in his eye, in the head. He says, it should have died. Right? He goes, there was 3 of them. And there was just one of me. He says, I reloaded, put a new clip in, and I got the hell out of there.
Right. And in Texas, in Texas, there isn't such a thing as a wolf in Texas. Now, you all have coyotes. And that's the thing, Brenton, that there's not supposed to be these wolves out here, let alone something that's as big as what we've been seeing. Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I believe he saw a Dogman because there's not any. I used to live in Texas too, and I know in Texas, even in our Arkansas or Texarkana, any of that region down there does not have wolves. So they have coyotes, and they're fairly small creatures. They're not nothing 3 or 4 foot tall.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing to be. A coyote, you can come across a pack of coyotes and you're in no danger. You know what I mean? They're scared. They're scared of humans. They don't really interact. They go out of their way to avoid humans. I mean, everybody that's an outdoorsman knows that. And that's just like encountering a bird or a squirrel out there. It's not a big deal.
Right. Well, okay. Sorry about that, man. I had the phone ring. I'm gonna turn this off, and you can take that in there, Dana. And
it's all right. Hey, you're a busy man.
Pardon that. I'll edit that out.
That's good. That's all right.
Okay. Now, Jacob, I think that if you would tell us the story and start with the trailer house, because that does play into your story, and tell that story through your encounter and then through when you came back and or when it how you told the story last night. I don't even want to give it away, but go ahead and just tell us and leave no detail out.
Okay, no problem. I'll do my best to tell you how it happened. So, where to start? Like, I'll start from the beginning. When we lived in Waco, we were poor, and the only thing we could afford was a trailer house and this land outside the city limits, right? And a tornado had hit it, and so it ripped off the roof and it ripped off a lot of the walls, and we got a loan to fix it, right? So we reinforced the walls with regular 2x4s, and we put double plywood and that aluminum siding on it. We reinforced the ceiling, and then to make sure that another tornado wouldn't blow it away, we put hurricane ties on it, about 6 of them, if I remember correctly. 2 on the outside ends and then 2 towards the middle end, to just in case one of them winds came by, it wouldn't blow it away. They were a little unsightly, but I mean, you really couldn't see them too much. But if you know anything about hurricane ties, is the big metal straps that come around the top and come down, and they stake into the ground, and they screw into the dirt about 2 foot or 3 foot. Anyhow, so we went ahead and we drilled the walls into the metal base plate of this thing, as I was growing up, I was a carpenter. And I was carpenter for 14 years, 15 years. But back then I was, starting off, and we had to go do a job in Dallas. So my boss comes to pick us up. Me and my brothers worked for the same boss. And so he comes by our trailer house and he picks us up at about 5 in the morning. And we're headed to Dallas, right? So it was a demo job we were going to do. We're coming around. We're coming off I-35. If any of you know Texas and Waco and Dallas, I-35's the main transit from Waco to Dallas. So as we're passing up Hillsboro, somewhere in between Hillsboro and Waxahachie, I don't remember the exact pinpoint, but I know that there's a lot of wooded area through there. Okay, it was about 6:30 when we were coming by. The sun was coming up, and you could see really good. And my boss notices that he thinks he sees a bear in the distance, right? He's like, "Hey, look, there's a bear there. There's a bear on the side of the highway." And I tell him, "What? A bear?" I said, "There's no bears in Texas." He's like, no, look, there's a bear up there. I said, "Where?" "I don't see it." He says, "It's on the side of the road." I said, "Oh, okay." I said, "You know what? Yeah, I do see it. You could see the brown, reddish looking hair, and you could see how the grizzly bears got like a rounded torso. You could see that in the ground." And I was like, "Man," I said, "Well, pull over, let's check it out." I mean, a bear in Texas? Who would have thought, right? So we pulled over. It was on the side of the road, and as we pulled up to it, we started to notice some things that was throwing it off from being a bear, because it had a long tail on it. Well, as soon as we pulled up, we seen it. And so this tail was longer than my arm, and it curved up. And in the inside, you could see it real smooth, like hair. And on the backside, it's real shaggy. You ever seen those dogs that they're stray dogs that walk in the streets, and they got those curved up tails and real shaggy fur on the back end of their tails?
Right.
Like that. The tail was bigger, and than my arm.
Right.
So that was off. We're like, "What type of bear is this?" And so when we pulled up to it, we pulled right up next to it, and I couldn't really see the head that good. And so I told him, I says, I did notice that when we pulled up to it, this thing was big, because the head looked like it was flush with our truck, and the legs seemed to be about flush with the bed of our truck. And what we were driving was an F-150 Ford extended cab. It was an older model because, it's an extended cab. Anyhow, I told him, pull up, I can't see the head. So he pulled up, and I said, oh, I said, stop right there. I said, man, this ain't no bear. It was the biggest wolf we ever seen, man. The head on this thing was about 3 foot wide, and it was bleeding from its mouth. I mean, I could still see some of the blood trickling out of his mouth. His mouth was wide open. Have you ever seen a dog, when a dog gets mad, it's ready to bite you, and it snarls up, and the skin sort of comes back, and you can see all the teeth? I said, that's what it was. And the mouth was wide open. I saw its tongue. The tongue was wider than my hand is wide. And I saw it go from thick to thin. I could see how it curved, and it ran the full length of the muzzle. I says, you know, where the head curves down and hits the muzzle, it was about 3 foot. About 3 foot. This thing was exaggerated long, and it was wide open. I mean, you could see the ripples. I could see the ripples on the tongue, man. I was really close. I was sitting in the passenger side front seat. I had my 2 brothers sitting in the back extended cab, and my boss was on the driver's seat. He was driving. So, I mean, this thing was big. All right, it had fangs, man. It had fangs on the front of it, and I estimated them to be about 6 inches. I mean, they were big from the gum line down to the point, about 6 inches. Okay, and it had 4 of them. 2 in the top jaw, 2 in the bottom jaw, and about midway of its jaw, it had a second set of fangs. It looked like fangs. They were like molars that shot out about 3.5 inches, about half the size of the front ones. As in the top and the bottom jaw both had them. The front teeth, they were like smaller, flat, and sharp. They came to a point. The ones in between the fangs. Okay. Now all of the molars, you could see like a razor sharp edge on them. This thing was, I mean, man, if you was to see it like I saw it, it was built to kill. I mean, the space, the mouth was open. The space from one fang, the tip of the fang, to the other tip of the fang, I estimated to be about 1 foot and 8 inches, more or less.
Wow.
That's roughly about the space that it had. All right, and this thing, I'm telling you, the eyes were closed because it was like snarled up and the teeth was coming back, and so the eyes were closed. The ears came to like a triangular point, and they were faced backwards. Okay, and all the skin on the muzzle was just wrinkled up, and the eyes were centered towards the front of the head. Okay, the eyes were centered towards the front. They weren't towards the sides of it like a cow or anything like that. They were towards the front of it. They were closed though, so I didn't get a look at what color they were or anything like that. But I mean, it was laid out, stretched out, like on the right side. It was laying on its right side. I said, if you can imagine like what a human would look like laid out on the ground. Okay, this thing, you could tell that it would walk on 2 legs, because when you look at your dog, you can tell that it walks on 4 legs because of the way that the legs are laid out. If you ever look at your dog, this thing was laid out with his legs straight out. Only difference was that the knees were bent in the wrong direction. Okay, they were bent backwards. So they were bent backwards like a dog's leg, and the feet looked like paws. Like a dog's paws, but they were really huge. They were big, and the hands.
It had hands though, correct?
Yeah. I mean, that was the craziest thing, that it was laying down, and it was laying down like this with his mouth open, and his hands were sort of like one over the other like that, and I could see from the fingers Okay, I mean it was covered in fur. It was covered in fur, but you can make out the fingers. It even had a thumb. All right, and out of each one of these fingers in the thumb, I could see from where the cuticle was, where the jet black fingernail. I say fingernail, but it was a claw, like a bear's claw that shot out, and right under the where the finger was, you could see where it would come joined together, and it would turn into like a razor sharp edge, and it shot outward and downward, okay, to a fine point, and you could see the sharpness of it on the edge. I mean, I keep knives on me because I work in construction, and I like to go out to the outdoors. But I had knives that weren't as sharp as the edge on that claw there, and,
wow.
and all of his fingers had these claws.
Wow.
Okay, off the bottom, jet black to a fine point. The paws at the bottom had the same thing. So I mean, the body, the torso was big and round like a bear's. Okay, that's why we thought it was a bear when we saw it from far away. It was big and round, and as a matter of fact, I remember some of the hairs on the torso being like little white, it was a dark brown with a reddish color, but on the torso of it had some little white hairs, but everything else was just jet brown with a reddish tint to it. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I got a real good look at its face, and I got a real good look at its jaw, the teeth, and the muscles on this thing. The muscles on this thing, they were huge. I didn't really get too good of a look at the chest because of all the hair and the fur, and the hands being this way, right? But I could see all the muscles on its arms and its shoulders. It was big. It was big. I mean, it looked like someone that's just a muscle builder. They just work out in the gym every day or something. It was big, really big. But I did get a good look at it, right? And I didn't see any male genitalia, so I was thinking it had to be a female, right? And so if this thing is this big and this powerful, and it being a female, you can just imagine what maybe a male specimen would be like.
Wow.
And
That's incredible to think about, man. Yeah. If that was the female, could you imagine what the male would be like? My goodness.
Yeah. And I mean, it was built to kill. I mean,
those are really just pure giants.
I was thinking, I thought to myself, man, because I love the woods, and I would go out hiking and riding my bike in the woods, and we would go hunting with my buddies. And man, if you were to encounter this thing in the woods, and there's no knife that could save you, you'd have to have like a long sword or a gun with a high caliber on it, a high caliber rifle or sidearm,
or bazooka,
or
a grenade launcher.
Yeah,
I wouldn't shoot it. If I could get away, I would leave. I would not try to shoot something that big. There's no way.
Well, I'll tell you right now, it was bleeding, right? It was bleeding. So I'm looking at this thing, and there's a big puddle of blood coming out of its mouth, all right? And I mean, the puddle's big, so my boss decides it's a good and funny idea to roll the window down. I think it was so funny or such a good idea, but since he's rolling my window down and hit the lock button, I couldn't get it up. So he rolls it all the way down. I'm like, hey man, this is not a good idea. I said, what if this thing is like just knocked out or something? He goes, it's dead, it's bleeding. Don't be afraid. I said, I'm not afraid. I'm just saying, what if it wakes up, right? So, I mean, the window's down. I can't roll it up. And it was probably a stupid idea, but I did it anyways. I went ahead and I stuck my head out the window. To get a better look, right?
Right.
So, I'm looking at it, and I can smell the blood. And it smells sort of like a dead animal. It stinks, it had a stink to it. And I could see the blood trickling out of his mouth still. And then my brothers in the back had the bright idea, hey, let's get out and throw it in the back of the truck and go sell it. We'll be famous. We'll make a lot of money off of selling this thing. And I told them, yeah, like hell we're gonna do that. I said, I ain't doing that. They said, yeah, Jacob, you grab it by the head and we'll grab it by the legs and we'll throw it. I said, I ain't touching the damn thing. I I said, you're not touching it either. I told him, my boss was like, yeah, get out and throw it in the back of the truck. I said, man, this thing's like 800 pounds a week. I said, so we ain't lifting that thing. And they're like, we'll drag it in there. We'll drag it. I said, you're not dragging. I said, that thing could just be wounded. I said, a wounded animal is worse than any other. I said, he'll probably think we did whatever happened to us. I imagine it had to be like an 18-wheeler that hit it because I didn't see any gun wounds or gunshots. Of course, I didn't really get a good look at the backside of it because I wasn't stupid enough to leave the cab. Right. But you know, we did have a pretty heated debate about getting out and throwing it in the back of the truck to go sell it, right? Although I don't know how we would get it in there because it was so big. But we had a debate about it. Then I was like, "Oh, hold on." I says, "Man, this thing can just jump up and massacre all of us. We don't have a gun." And this was back when the cell phones didn't have those cameras that they have now.
What year was this? Now we never did say that.
Yeah, this was back in 1998.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just wanted that to be clear so that people understand why you didn't get a picture. Cell phones in 1998 were still bulky.
I would have took a video. I would have took pictures. You might even see me through the window trying to take a selfie.
Right. Yeah.
A selfie with the Dogman, you know.
Right.
My God.
Right. Yeah.
But, so then we debated about calling the cops. Hey, call the cops. We told our boss, call the cops, man. Call the cops and tell them that there's some big animal out here, right? So and my boss was like, man, well, what is that thing? I said, I don't know. He says, that's a monster. And he says, that looks like one of them werewolves. I said, yeah, that's what it is. It's a werewolf. So it was unanimous in the truck. In our truck, that thing was a werewolf. Because it's the closest thing that we ever seen to anything like that. We never seen anything like that. As a matter of fact, that is not supposed to exist, right?
Right. Yeah.
That's not supposed to exist. We didn't see about that in the Discovery Channel.
Right. Yeah. I mean, but really the hands is what made it have to be a werewolf or a Dogman or something, because if it had front paws, you could maybe say, okay, that was a huge wolf.
No. You could see the fingers on it.
Right.
It had fingers with a thumb. Like my hand. It was like this. It was literally like this, and you could see the fur, and you could see the claws coming out of it, man.
And plus, a wolf is not that big, or that they're way bigger than a wolf, and they're literally giants. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Really big. This thing was as big as the truck. All right. That's. I didn't get off and measure it with a tape measure now because I mean. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a coward. I'm not afraid, but I'm not stupid either. You know what I mean? You're gonna get off with this. Because we were during the debate. I'm telling them, I'm like, man, this thing's probably just knocked out. They're like, no, it's dead. It's dead. And so I looked at it, and I don't know if it was my eyes playing tricks on me, but I could almost see it faintly breathing. You know what I mean? I'm like, no, I can see. Look, it's breathing. Like I could see this. I can still see the stomach moving. They're like, no, we don't see it moving. I'm like, man. I said, I'll tell you what. I says, how about we do this? We'll go to work, right? We'll come back. If it's still laying here, we'll throw it in the back of the truck because then we know it's dead. They're like, yeah, you know what? That sounds like a good idea. And so that's what we did. We went into Dallas. We did our demo job. We came back as quick as we could. And we looked for it. And it was gone. It was gone. And then that's when my boss said, well, I guess it was a good idea that we didn't get out there to try and pick it up because it's gone. You know? We couldn't find it.
Now,
and you know what?
Now, you said that the blood was gone, too.
That's the craziest thing, Brenton, that we couldn't even find the stain of blood. It's almost like someone cleaned it up. And so we were like, well, who? So, we were thinking someone beat us to it, right? So we were sort of thinking, well, maybe it was a good idea we didn't touch it, or maybe someone just beat us to it. And when we lost out, right? We're thinking, man, we lost out. Maybe it was dead, and we could have sold it, or we could have done something. But I don't know how we would have got in the back of the truck. It was so big anyhow.
Right. But you said there was a big puddle of blood that had come out of its mouth. It's just impossible for that to disappear.
No, yeah, it should have been there. It should have been there. By the time we got back, it would have probably been like you know how blood turns black, you know? When it starts to dry, we should have found the big black spot, and there was nothing. It was nothing. It just wasn't there. Okay, so that was weird. We were thinking, well, you think maybe the government took it, or maybe someone just came and cleaned it up and tried to take all the DNA, or maybe some of the other wolf dogs, or we're thinking werewolves, right? We're like, well, maybe some of the other werewolves came and took it and licked up the blood. I mean, we didn't know what to think. So all we know is we lost out on it, and as far as we were concerned, I mean, the encounter ended, and we went out about our lives, right? So 2 days later, we go out to the movies, we watch a movie, we come home, and it's about 11:30, 12 o'clock, and my brother's putting on my shoes, and I'm getting upset with him about putting on my shoes, and I'm putting on his shirt to pay him back, show him how it feels like when someone's wearing your clothes. But outside, I start to hear this howling, right? And it's faint, and you can hear it. And then I hear it again, and it's getting closer. And then I hear it again, and it's even louder, and it's even closer. And so my brother comes in, and he starts yelling at me while I'm wearing his clothes. And I said, hold on. I says, don't you hear that? I says, there's something like a wolf howling outside. I said, listen. No, he tells me, don't change the subject. You always trying to. So we get in. I told him, you just got to give it up. You got to listen to this. I said, listen to this. And so he didn't want to give it up. We started to argue. The next thing I know, something hits the house. I mean, it hits the trailer house so hard that it tilts up onto its side, and it felt like it was going to tilt over and rock back. And it hit it again, and it did it again, and it hit it again. 3 times it hit the house, and it felt like it was going to turn it over. I imagine if it wasn't for the hurricane tides we put on it, it might have flipped it over.
Right.
The window cracked, and the wall bowed in. Okay, and it came loose from the base plate, and man, it freaked us out. My brother's like, whoa, hold on, something's trying to get in. What is that? I said, I don't know. He goes, well, what's trying to get in? I said, I don't know, but it wants in, and apparently it's gonna get in. I said, get ready to fight for your life. So we grabbed some metal bats we had and some knives, and then man, none of us wanted to look out the window, but we did. Right. And there was nothing there, right? So, I mean, we didn't know what it was. By that time, my mom and dad come in. They're like, "What are you doing? You're gonna knock the whole house over. The whole house was tipping." We're like, "It wasn't us. Something's attacking the house. And they're like, "Well, what is it? I don't know. We heard howling, And so then they're like, "Well, don't make no noise. Let's check and see what it is." Around that time.
So you were really scared at this point. Were you thinking it was the werewolf at this point?
Yeah. I mean, we heard the howling. Yeah. I heard the howling, and it was getting closer and closer. And I had my back towards the window, and I was arguing with my brother, and this thing hit right where our room was. Where my back was turned. It was hitting the wall where my back was at. Okay, so I mean, it freaked me out. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't scare easy, but when something hits your house hard enough to almost turn it over, I mean, it's gonna freak you out. Right. So it freaked me out. It freaked the whole family out, and so we're freaked out. And about a couple minutes passed by. We didn't see nothing. We didn't hear nothing. And I was thinking, man, it couldn't be. I mean, this can't be. I thought it can't be this wolf thing. I thought it's got to be my cousins. It's got to be somebody that's, just maybe they hit our house with a car or something. And so I got really upset. And I thought, well, I'll be damned if I'm going to be in my house and I'm living in fear, right? So I grabbed one of the metal bats and I grabbed some knives and put them in my pant loops. And I told my brothers, come on. I said, let's go out and challenge whoever it was. It's got to be our stupid cousins messing with us. And they're like, no, we ain't going out there. I said, well, I'm going to challenge them. I went outside. They locked the door behind me. And I was really upset. I started hitting the floor. We had a caliche driveway. It's a driveway with those white rocks, right? So I'm hitting the floor. I'm like, come on, you want to hit my house? Come and hit my house now. I'll break your legs. and I got upset, and I was throwing a fit, and I was yelling, and we have dogs out there. I have a dog in the backyard. My neighbor has dogs. There's dogs in the front, and there's a big lamppost in front of our house with a tree by it, and day and night the birds were always chirping because the light was on, and there's crickets out there, and everything's making all sorts of noise. Well, I'm out there yelling and making, throwing my fit because I was upset, thinking it had to have been my cousins or somebody playing a prank on us. And I stopped to hear the response, right? And there was no response. As a matter of fact, what started to freak me out is that not even the dogs barked. You couldn't go outside and talk without the dogs barking. All right, the crickets weren't even cricketing. The birds weren't even making any noise. There was no noise at all. I mean, it was dead silence. Nothing. And so I thought, well, something ain't right here. Oh man, I thought, man, I'm the biggest fool. What am I doing? So then I started to feel a little bit of fear, and I started walking backwards, and I made it back up to the porch, and I started banging on the door. Let me in. So they let me back in. I get back in there. We locked the door, and man, we all slept real close to each other that night. I mean, we was afraid. I mean, like I said, I'm not a coward, and I don't scare easy. But if you see this thing, it'll put the fear in. That's for sure.
Right.
And so we made a prayer. We made a prayer, and then we went to bed. Later on that night. But we never seen it again after that. I mean, we never seen it again.
So you were thinking maybe that it could have been possible because your boss had rolled your window down, that it maybe could have gotten the scent from you being on the passenger side, and that might have been a possibility for it to find you?
It was 2 days later.
Right.
And when it was howling, I was thinking, no, it can't be. It can't be. You know what I mean? I know.
How far was it?
I mean, I was thinking, man, is this the wolf that we saw? Because it was gone when we went back, right? It was gone. So we didn't know if someone took it or if it was still alive.
Right. How far away was the incident from your house?
Well, that's the thing, Brenton, that our house was approximately an hour and 30 to 45 minutes away from the location that we found it. Okay? Right. It was an hour and about 40 minutes away from that location.
Right.
I mean, that's not like you're just going next door.
Right.
So,
well, sometimes animals, pets and stuff can find their way back to their owners from distances like that. So something like a Dogman may be able to do such a thing also.
Well, that was the conclusion we came to, because what else has got the power to attack your house like that? I mean, yeah. I'm telling you, we wrapped it up on its side.
Well, the howling is what kind of gave it away.
Well, yeah, I mean, and it was in the distance, and it was like, woo, and then it got closer. I mean, it would pause, and then it would howl again, and this time you could hear it louder and closer, and it would do it again, and it would do it again. It was so loud, I was hearing it through the window. The window was closed. Okay, when I'm hearing it, my window's not open. My window is closed, and I can hear it through the window. Okay. And I'm not claiming that I got like super hearing or anything. It's just, it was loud. You see what I'm saying? It was loud, and it was getting louder as it got closer.
Right. Do you think that maybe these things are partly supernatural? I don't know if you watched the video that I had. Well, the Kurt Stokes video, I talk about how something can be flesh and bone, or flesh and blood, and still be supernatural. Because there has to be some kind of genetic manipulation to be a humanoid and a wolf, from like Genesis 6 stuff. That I don't know if you ever heard of about Genesis 6.
To tell you the truth, I'm not so sure about that, or if it's just like a species on its own. You know what I mean? I remember stories of people telling me, the boy who cried wolf, the wolf, how everyone was afraid of the wolf. And I remember thinking, man, how is everyone afraid of these wolves? I grab a shovel and handle these wolves, right? But maybe those were the wolves they were talking about. I mean, yeah, most definitely. If you lived back in those days, man, yeah. I mean, even today, if you see one of those wolves, and those things are built to kill. I mean, they are. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The power that they got, I mean, as big as their muzzles are, the head, you know, it's built to kill.
Well, I have a video coming soon that has paintings from ancient times, even carvings of dog humanoid creatures, even rock drawings from Egypt all the way to Australia. And these carvings are in the rocks, and they're thousands of years old, and they're humanoid creatures with dog heads. And so these have been around for a long time, and people were documenting them. And there's a lot of art showing that. So that, you know, they called them something, I can't remember the word right now, but it meant dog-headed. And because they didn't have a dog head.
I mean, I'll tell you right now. I mean, I think, you know, if I was to name it, I think I would. It doesn't really look like a dog to me. It's distinctively wolf. You know what I mean? It's distinctively wolf. I would call it like man, I don't know. I would call it something with a wolf in it, like a gigantowolf. It's the biggest wolf you'll ever see. That's for sure.
Right.
With killer claws and killer teeth on it.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, they say that there's a few different types of them, and you encountered what they call the type 3, and it's a wolf, more of a wolf looking, and there's some of them that even are more kind of like almost a cross between a Bigfoot and a dog with, you know, a Bigfoot with a muzzle. So I don't know, but you encountered the kind that seemed the scariest to me. I don't see how it can get worse.
It'll test your dog, that's for sure. It'll test you. I mean, yeah, it'll put the fear in you. You'll feel it. You won't. It's not voluntary. It's not something that, you know, you're gonna think, oh, I'm not afraid of this thing. It's just gonna happen to you. You'll feel it.
Yeah.
I mean,
now, would you take your family and go camping in the area near there, out in the woods?
Would I take my family and go in there?
Yeah.
Would
you camp in the woods there?
I mean, no, I wouldn't recommend camping in the woods there. Let's put it that way. If you go, I mean, I'm not gonna make something like that. I'm not one to live in fear. So if you're gonna go in the woods, go 3, 4, 5 strong, and carry a lot of firepower with you. You know, and make sure you have each other's back, because you're gonna need it.
Right.
But yeah, I wouldn't recommend camping.
Have you ever heard of the David Paulides 411 books, where he talks about missing people from the national forests?
Yeah, well, I have heard of the missing people from the national forest, and I'll tell you, it's a great tragedy. But I will tell you that if there's animals like that out there, and there is, I've seen it, you know, in the other parts of the woods, right? I know in my neck of the woods there is, but in other parts of the woods, I don't doubt that there would be, because why wouldn't there be if there's in the woods over here that's not even that big, right? I mean, yeah, most definitely you'll go missing. Most definitely, they'll probably never find you, and it's no wonder to me that there's so many people going missing. No, I wouldn't doubt that we're probably one of the largest food sources out there. Okay,
right.
And there's probably more people out there than there is deer. Okay, and if you're a predator, you're going to hunt the largest food source. Okay?
Wow.
And, these things, man, they're built to kill. That's all I can tell you. There's no man, woman, or child that'll be safe out there unless they're carrying some high power, some high power rifles, and you got to be real vigilant on what's around you. You know, any noise that's out of the ordinary, most definitely. I mean, watch your back, watch each other's back. I know what's out there. I would still go into the woods, but I wouldn't go alone. Most definitely don't go alone, and don't go unarmed. My God, you wouldn't go to Africa and the safari unarmed. And you know there's lions out there, right? But you got these things that are worse than lions. I'm telling you, I'd rather go up against a lion than this. Right. And I think more and more people are beginning to believe it, because
there's a lot of people like yourself that are willing to come out and tell what they saw, where in past times they were embarrassed to because there was no other people doing it, and now you're not alone. So I really do appreciate you sharing your story. Because this will help people. And there's other people from Texas who have encountered these creatures, even in packs. So
that's probably really scary. If you find them in a pack, most definitely it's going to be really scary, because I saw one of them and it was wounded. Maybe an 18-wheeler hit it. I'm not sure. Right? It had to have been something really large vehicle, because this thing was so big that a regular car would have hit it. It would have been totaled and would have stayed there on the side of the road next to it. So it had to have been a really big vehicle. But
do you think that it was freshly hit?
It looked like it was freshly hit, because when I looked at it, I stuck my head out the window and I could still see blood trickling out. I mean, I could still see blood trickling. There was already a real big blood puddle, and I could still see more blood trickling out of above its tongue. It was just like a constant flow coming out. So he was wounded really bad. That's for sure. But I mean, that doesn't mean that it was dead or that it couldn't survive. I mean,
did you?
This thing was so big. I mean, I'm pretty sure it had plenty more blood than that. But there was a substantial amount of blood outside of its mouth for sure. It was a big puddle outside of it. And it was candy apple red. I mean, this is red as my blood or anybody else's blood out there. And it stunk really bad too. I'm telling you, it smelled like something like you ever go by a dead animal and you get that whiff? It had a similar whiff to it, like a similar stench to it.
Right, that might have been the creature itself. Did you or the people in the vehicle think at any time, did you think that maybe the rest of the pack was watching from the woods waiting for you to leave?
Man, that's a scary thought, because it never dawned on us that it wasn't alone. You know what I mean? Right. It never dawned on us that it wasn't alone. If it did, I would have never stuck my head out the window. We were debating and getting down because we thought it was dead, but then just the mere fact that it might not be dead changed it all, and we just left. You know?
I do not think that the rest of that pack would have let you put that dog into the back of that truck. You were very fortunate that you did.
It was a good idea. Yeah, get down. You guys throw it in the back. I said, no, I ain't touching that thing. And so when you get down, he's like, I ain't touching it. I was like, this is unanimous. No one's touching it.
Yes, if that was the female, then there was a male probably watching from the woods and waiting for you all to leave so it could come get the female and whatever rest of the pack there might have been. Typically 3 and 4 in a pack, in most cases. Yeah,
it makes a lot of sense, because it was gone. Even the blood was gone. It could have been licked up. Maybe they licked it clean. I don't know. You know, dogs do what they do, and these are like really big wolf dog looking things. Right. And like I said, for the longest time I was calling it werewolf. I'm telling people there's werewolves in the woods. They're looking at me like I'm crazy. I didn't know what else to call it.
Right.
Nothing else out there. There's no category of animal that it fit. You know what I mean? The only thing I seen on television that closely resembled was a werewolf, and that's what I thought it was. Right. For a long time, I thought if a werewolf exists, I mean, I'm pretty sure Bigfoot exists. I mean, now I'm not doubting any of that. I mean, if these people are seeing it, I see what I seen, and who am I to doubt what they're seeing? You know, if they got the courage to come forward, because we get a lot of ridicule. People look at you like you're stupid, like you're a liar. And the only reason, Brenton, that I'm even coming forward to make this video is because people need to know what's out there. They need to take their steps to protect themselves and their families when they go camping, or when they go into the woods just to do even the simplest thing of hunting.
I agree.
Brenton, let me put it this way. If there was a lion in the woods, would they not take the necessary precautions? Would they not do things different? This is worse than a lion. This is worse than a lion. And everyone is oblivious to it. And maybe it's because a lot of people aren't surviving their encounters.
Right.
The great possibility. Maybe that's why you get the 411 out there.
Right.
Because everyone's just going missing. I'm telling you, it's built to kill.
Well, you know, in some of the 411 cases, whenever there is one particular story where a kid came up missing, and the search group was out looking for the child, and there was an eyewitness that they said they saw a large creature with something over its shoulder walking across a ridge top. Well, the next day there was an Army Ranger crew that did a separate search on their own, and they would not tell the search party anything of what they were doing. But Army Rangers do not come in search and rescue. I think that there was a rogue beast, and they came out to end that rogue beast's life and to deal with it, because our government, the shadow parts of the government, know that those creatures are out there, and they keep them contained a little bit if there's one that goes rogue.
Well, you know what? What I'm thinking is that it's probably like anything else, Brenton. You got bears in the woods, and most bears will stay away from humans, and they want to attack them, although they got the ability to attack and to kill a human and eat them. You know what I mean? And then when you get the one that starts to attack and kill humans, then they take action. So yeah, that sounds pretty much standard protocol as far as everything that I've seen and I know. And I'm not sure if everyone else would agree with me, but yeah, it sounds like pretty standard protocol. But I believe everyone has the right to know what's out there to protect themselves. Brenton, if it was somebody else that had the encounter I had, and they have the knowledge I have, I would appreciate them telling me, hey man, be careful when you go out there, because there's something worse than a lion out there, and it creeps and crawls, and it's built to kill. If you take your family out there, just know it's out there. You know, take the necessary precautions to protect yourself. Do not go unarmed. You know, do not go alone. It's a bad idea. A bad idea. I'll tell you right now. It ranks up there with, you know, swimming in quicksand and swimming across the Nile River, you know, with no boat. I mean, it's a bad idea.
Do you think that these creatures are more intelligent than a wolf?
Oh yeah, my God! In 2 days it tracked me down, an hour and 40 minutes away from the location. Yeah. I don't know any wolf or dog that would be able to do that, because, I mean, I went to Dallas, worked, came back, but I mean, maybe because I came back through the area looking for it, maybe it caught a whiff of me. But for it to track me down to my house, there's got to be some real good intelligence there.
Well, when you rolled down the window, if there was creatures watching from nearby, I believe they probably did catch your scent, because as soon as you left, they were there.
There's a real good possibility they were there. And it never crossed our mind, because those creatures were not supposed to exist. No one ever warned us about it. No one ever told us, hey, there's gigantic wolves out there that are killing machines, right?
Right.
Be careful. They didn't exist. Don't look. It was supposed to be a fantasy legend, a myth, something that people told their kids stories to scare them to bed at night or whatever. I mean,
right. Well,
Jacob, roll up.
I really appreciate you coming on and telling your story.
Yeah.
Do you think that you could get your friend who had the encounter hunting? You think you could get him to come on?
Well, I'll make no promises, but I'll talk to him.
Okay, I would appreciate you asking him. And I really do appreciate you coming on. This will help some people, and plus it'll help get the word out that this is real. I couldn't believe it when I realized that it was really true. And
yeah. I mean, if I didn't see it, I'd probably be a skeptic myself. Maybe I don't know if I'd be so rude as to, you know, make fun of them or tell them anything like that. But I'm telling you, maybe someone will listen. Maybe they'll take it serious.
Right.
For their sake, I hope they do. I hope at the mere least they don't go into the woods unarmed. You know.
Right.
But hopefully, at least they'll take something to help to give themselves a fighting chance. Because if you don't have a gun, you don't stand a chance in there.
Right. Well. When I first heard Kirk Stokes' story, where the creature was 12 foot tall and had a 2.5 foot wide head, that was just so unbelievable. So when I heard you tell yours, and that's a female, I couldn't imagine how big some of these beasts are, and why when Kirk said that it sounded like a bulldozer coming through the woods, I can imagine why. If it wanted to make noise, it could.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right.
This thing was big.
Right.
I could just imagine it standing over somebody, hooking it with his claws, and it could just bite your head off. I mean, it's way bigger than me or you or anybody else that's out there, and it's got the tools necessary. That's for sure.
I like to ask this. I like to ask this one question for fun when it comes to Dogman, and I asked Vic Cundiff this. If it came down to a fight between Bigfoot and Dogman, who do you think would win?
Oh yeah, I mean Bigfoot doesn't have a chance. I'm sorry to say it. Yeah, it's just that the Dogman is designed to kill, and I mean it would be like putting a lion up against like a hippopotamus or something like that. I mean they got brute force, but they just don't have the tools necessary to kill them. Maybe that's a bad analogy. I don't know, but
that's funny, man.
It's got the tool.
Yeah, right. So, with the razor claws and the teeth that are 8 inches and
and it's got the brute force. It's got the brute force. I mean, maybe I'll get for example, describing the muscles this thing had. They were enormous. Okay. They were big. You know, you think Arnold Schwarzenegger didn't have nothing on this thing. This thing was bigger than that guy, and then some. And that's because I didn't get a full on look at the chest because it was leaning on its right side, and all I could see was the muscles from the arms and the rib cage and so forth. And the legs are just huge too.
Right.
So yeah, it's got the tools and the brute force to carry it through for sure.
Right. Yeah. Well, I know that in the comments there'll be some people that will disagree, but that was only because usually they think Bigfoot is bigger. But it doesn't sound like to me Bigfoot is always bigger. There's some big Dogmen, and that was a female.
You know, I can't claim to have ever seen a Bigfoot. I haven't, right? And all I've seen was the Wolfman. I seen him up close. And the only reason I would say, I mean, man, you have to see it for yourself. Right. The animal, just that's what it does. As far as I was concerned, that's what that animal does. He's a predator for sure.
Would there be any way that you could maybe make a sketch of what you saw, the best you can, and take a picture of that and email it to me that I could put it in the video?
I'm not an artist. I mean, I can try. You can try. There now. It's going to look probably like a kindergartner drew it.
No, I'm not saying make a good sketch.
I'll do my best.
Okay.
I can do it.
All right.
But
well, I would appreciate that. Well, yeah, just do the best you can to give an idea of everything that you saw, and it'll be fun to see your take on it and your drawing. Well, I do appreciate you coming on, Jacob. And I will be in touch with you, and I've got your number, and I will be calling you as I'm working on getting this edited and posted. And I do appreciate you, and don't be a stranger. All right?
Yeah, in touch. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to me, and I really do hope somebody can benefit from it. Hopefully someone takes it serious enough to at least carry to protect themselves. I fear because there's people out there that don't know. They don't know, and they're going to listen because they don't know. You know what I mean? Right. So hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah, well, that is the reason I think that it's good to share like that. And I'll be talking to you. And all you out there in YouTube land, I'll see you on the next video. Subscribe, comment, and share these videos. And you can contribute on Facebook, Mysteries of Search. Appreciate it, and see you on the next one. Bye.
How you doing, Brent?